in the uniform. I think you're ready, Greg.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Greatest Hits webinar series from Alpine Supply Chain Solutions. Today's topic is that WMS implementation stumbles, then takes off. It's part of our ongoing 2023 webinar series that you will see monthly, and thank you for joining. Today's session is Born to Run. A WM implementation stalls, then takes off. It's the first in a series of 10 videos that we will be webinaring this year. Hosting today is HJI. I'm your moderator, Greg Utter. I'm one of the senior managing directors at Alpine Supply Chain Solutions. Just a quick caveat, the information discussed in this session represents the views of the individuals and does not constitute legal advice. You should consult with your organization's leadership and legal counsel.
That was a mouthful.
Next slide, please. So today's presenters, I'm happy to introduce Shane Allgaier. He's the COO of HJI Supply Chain Solutions, and Michael Woolwind, the managing principal for Alpine Supply Chain Solutions. Today's agenda and the topics that we're going to be covering: who is HJI Supply Chain Solutions? What challenges did they face? Our approach, results, and then next steps. As we move forward through these slides, please feel free to use the QA or chat buttons at the bottom of your screen. I, as your moderator, will keep track of questions that need to come up during the series, and at the end, we will have an option to a QA session. With that, I'd like so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shane Allgaier. I'm the COO for HJI Supply Chain Solutions, and I'll be discussing our trip down Success Lane. This is a little company overview of who HJI is. We were established in 1994. We're headquartered here in Louisville, Kentucky. We have 500 plus team members throughout Kentucky and Tennessee, ranging 6 locations. Happy to announce a 7th one here in February of 2023. Excited about that. A single source provider, 3P&L, supply chain solutions. We do a variety of different options, services, whether it's manufacturing, subassembly, returnable container management, omnichannel fulfillment, kitting, and so forth.
You guys specialize in disruptive supply chain, that's for sure.
Yes, for sure. Some of the certifications that we have here, we're ISO certified for automotive, AIB, and FDA certified for our food and beverage industries. We are also proud to say that we are a women and minority-owned business.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I went with
being able to serve the customer nowadays. It's very clear that there's some things that they need. They need accuracy, of course, but it's always been the case. But they want it faster and faster. So every year it gets faster and faster. So we have our triangle of success here that we need to operate within to make sure we can enable good growth for us and our customers, which is speed, accuracy, and flexibility to the needs of our customers. We briefly touched on some of the areas that we serve: automotive, consumer goods, healthcare, medical, food and beverage, retail, manufacturing. Some of the order fulfillment, value-added services that you traditionally see with a 3P&L, kitting, assembly, reverse logistics, e-commerce, pick, pack, and ship. We do offer manufacturing services as well through a partnership, metal stamping, high-tech robotic welding, plastic injection molding as well. And then assembly, sub-assembly, get into the automotive business, sequencing, LBS, broadcast, line-side presentation, and rework and quality support.
I think the slide should say, what services don't you do?
Yeah, it should. Here, right? It should. Right. Yeah, we're pretty well versed in the 3P&L area. Core focus, our purpose, which I think is the separator between us and other 3PLs or companies like us, is Our goal is to enrich the lives of our people, our community, and provide the peace of mind to our customers that we have their back and that we're going to take care of their needs as we promised to. Our niche is we're a 3PL solutions provider that supplies supply chain solutions to your needs.
So you guys were about to embark upon this journey. Let's talk about the challenge and the problems that you guys are trying to solve, right?
Yeah. So the challenge was we built a WMS case. We went out and did a very extensive selection, ranging from looking at somewhere around 20 to 25 different WMS systems, narrowed it down to 7 or so that met most of the criteria. And then bottom line is we selected one, but as we got going, we weren't achieving the ROI that we were looking for and the time frame we were looking for. So at first we purchased it through a company that it was their WMS, but ended up getting purchased along the way while we were in the midst of install. I think we had some miscommunication on who was supporting who. Right in the middle of it, we had stuck in the manual process mode. So for those who are in this industry, you know, paper picking is not a solution. We didn't have any conformity, no stability. So we really kind of isolated into one specific facility. We were already well over 200% growth rate that year. And by the way, for those who remember, that was COVID. So we were battling COVID as well. And as you saw earlier in our slide, we deal with healthcare. So we were doing the hand sanitizers, the masks, all those things that people needed on top of the growth. And we had ran out of space in the facility we're in. So we're battling COVID. The system's not running. We're at 200% growth rate and we're out of space. So now we're trying to coordinate a move from one facility to another, which currently the one we were in was about 140. And we were trying to get into a massive warehouse, which we are standing here today is a 350,000 square foot facility. A little breakdown of how we're laid out. We have 2 automotive warehouses in Louisville. We have 1 3P&L DC, soon to be 2 in February. We have 1 automotive in Shepherdsville, Kentucky, and then 2 in Memphis, 1 automotive, 1 3P&L. So now we're off to how do we fix the problem?
So let me get this straight. You purchased a WMS in 2019, you're trying to install it in 2020, you're growing at 200% of the year over year, you're out of space, and you're going to move?
Correct.
Sounds like the worst possible environment imaginable. Yeah. You signed up for that.
Yes.
Now I know why your beard's all gray.
Exactly. That's what happens to you when you're trying to make too many things happen.
So ironically, we get a phone call from Shane. Michael, I understand that you guys do some Körber services work. And I said, yes, we do. What's the situation? Well, we bought the software. We're trying to go live. It's not stable. I'm trying to integrate to NetSuite. And in fairness, you were a little gun shy, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, true. Shane, I've got the right approach. Let's do a best practice assessment. Rather than just fix one portion, let's look at the entire process and see what the right approach is. So it is May 2020, right? Yes. So the last trip, I flew home from Atlanta, Modex 2020. I get home, the world shuts down. I think it was March 17th, right? So here we are, March 17th. I haven't gone anywhere all of April. Shane calls me and says, I'm essential. We are able to be open and we're ready to go if you are. So Dave Krazine, Greg Utter fly from Dallas to Louisville. Their plane was full, but I think they were the only 2 people at the hotel. And then being in Chicago, I drove down. I stayed at my aunt's house and we were here to meet with you that first week of May. It was the first warehouse I had walked in like 6 or 8 weeks. I think it's the longest. I've never been in a warehouse in my entire career. So we do a best practice assessment. What do we find? Obviously, the WMS is not as stable and it doesn't have all the functionality that you're looking for. This is a multi-tenant environment that we're in. Right. And at that time, you didn't have all the customers. You didn't have directed put away. You didn't have some stuff going on. And the biggest issue was the integration between Körber's Edge WMS and the NetSuite ERP. And so being able to bring Dave and have them start to look at the errors and the connections and the frequencies really helped that. The other big one is, you know, right, wrong, or indifferent, you guys went on this journey by yourself. So there wasn't standard operating procedures. There weren't test scripts to ensure that you guys were ready before you went live. Now, anybody that knows anything about the third-party logistics business, you don't make money bringing pallets in and pallets out. Where you make the money is all the value-added services, the kitting, and those types of things. And all of that was being done outside the system at that time, right? So we knew we need to get the system stable, get the integration good, turn on additional functionality, get direct and put away, get triggered replenishment, and then be able to get that value-added services in there. Obviously, how to best maximize your space and equipment, accommodate that high growth, moving into the new facility, right? You're like, I don't want to move it until it's stable, bulletproof. I want to, have confidence in it. In the other building, you didn't have the right inbound and outbound staging on a daily basis, nor did you have the right number of doors, right? So this facility was going to allow you to actually do dock door management. You could stage inbound and outbound loads. Obviously labor, right? You had a lot of manual labor. You wanted to control that, and then lacking the tools. So you bought a great asset. You just weren't getting the best use out of it. Right. So coming out of this, we wrote a prescription for success and said, hey, in the next 6 weeks, let's stabilize the system. Let's get some key functionality on. And at that point, if you're getting value from this and you want to keep going, we'll help you roll out some additional functionality, right? So the first thing we did is we got on the phone with Körber and we said, hey, we need some, dedicated skill sets to support some of the key areas for the acceptance testing and some of the things that we're finding. And then we also worked with a broader team. So now you've got resources in Memphis, knowing that we're going to have that second site. So you brought them in. One of your IT resources left, so we had to backfill them. We established the testing plan. Nothing is going to go out of the test environment until it's been tested, proven. Then we'll move it in production, make sure that we've got a stable, consistent process documenting all that. The big one there is really meeting your needs and creating the new standard operating procedures, training the team to get that happening, and then expanding the knowledge base versus the last time you had one resource. Now you got 7 or 8 people that are able to understand the process, and then look at re-implementing in some of those new areas. So came in, wrote a prescription for success, and we got it stable, turned on additional functionality. And with that, you guys were able to actually take it and roll it out and start to get some benefits on that asset you invested in. So let's talk a little bit about the benefits and the results.
So once we partnered with Alpine, they were able to help us communicate with Körber a little bit better and get everybody on the same page. We really started hitting the ground running. So we had a fully implemented WMS system. We had backup support. Lots of improvements, but this is just a few to point out. Our receiving time had gotten really out of whack because we, like Michael said, we didn't have a good dock flow. We didn't have a system to kind of keep us in check with what was receiving through inbound PO verifications. So once we got that all established, now we're starting to hit where we're receiving every single thing into the facility within 24 hours and putting it away. That was a huge improvement from 3 to 5 days that things were sitting at that point in time because of all the different challenges. We improved shipping performance dramatically in the sense of we had anywhere from 12 to 14 pickers out there trying to paper pick and keep up with what we were trying to do while we were trying to stabilize the system. Once that was stabilized and we put the practices in place, we were actually down to 2 pickers being able to continue to put out the same amount of flow and more because we were getting more orders, but we did not have to add resources. Improved order to ship, less than 48 hours. It's pretty significantly better than where we were. And now we're currently not on we're less than 24 hours with all of our stuff.
Let's talk about that for a second. So you think about a third-party facility, multi-tenant environment on a daily basis, you might be receiving automotive equipment, marketing material. You got a brand new customer. Go ahead, say it.
Which
So you got apparel now.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons you guys have been so successful in growing is you guys always did the right thing for the customer satisfaction, this and that. So when you guys are shipping or receiving it and you're doing a receipt and it says, hey, I was supposed to get 36 and they only get 24, the value you're providing to your customers so they can go back to their contract manufacturer and be like, you guys aren't shipping 36 in a box, you're shipping 24 and get that rectified. But that's been a bit of part of your success is you guys have really done what it takes, risen to the occasion per se for your customers. And, your customer satisfaction really drives what you guys do here, doesn't it?
It really does, but the system allowed us to make that more efficient. So, for example, if you receive something in 5 days after it's received and it's off on its inventory, there's lots of questions, right? But if you received it in and say, hey, that was dropped off at 12:30, and we're calling you at 1 o'clock saying, hey, this is off, then there's no questions. And then that customer has power to go back to the supplier and say, hey, look, this was just dropped off. This is what was, was verified. We did not receive what we needed to receive. And a lot of happy customers, and we were able to streamline some of the supplier issues that they had as well, which led to their growth, them saving expenses, all because we had an effective operation.
That's perfect. So, thanks for that.
No problem.
Diving into that just a little bit.
The assembly tracking is big for us. Like Michael said, for 3P&L, most of the money's made in kitting, subassembly, assembly, those type of value-added operations. So the assembly tracking was very important. It improved, obviously the tracking, but the management of it, allowing us to see early, hey, I need to go ahead and order these parts. I need to make sure that it's flowing. I'm not running out of this. I'm not running out of that. And that way the line continues to run, continues to assemble what it needs to assemble, and it ultimately ends at the customer at the right time.
So today on the tour, they talked about, right, you used to throw a ton of labor at that. Now with the WMS, real-time inventory, the triggered replenishments, you guys have been able to do the same amount of volume with a third of the labor? Half of the labor?
I would say a third.
A third.
Yeah, on a consistent basis.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
This is a big success for us. I think the biggest piece for us being able to be stable, though, was this part right here, which is the standardized processes and tools. A big shout out to Alpine on that. On one of the things I told Mike when we first talked was, I want the processes written out and documented, and I need you guys to do it because you're the experts. We need those things written down, documented. His teams did a great job. Greg and Dave were there all the time. I think we probably wore Dave out.
Well, we had to backfill him with Jamie, and she was a lot more appreciative.
Yeah, but they did an excellent job of putting that together and allowing us to be successful in the future for training future employees, getting more streamlined and continuous improvement exercising, and then decrease the time of training people and bringing them on board to the team.
Well, that's a big part of it, right? I mean, you guys have a huge seasonality here. So you don't need that full crew. So when you do get the part-time seasonal help, how do you get them on board? How do you make sure you get the most value from your investment? And then don't lose that inventory accuracy you've worked so hard to get, right?
Correct.
All right. So these are some of the benefits. Let's talk about some of the results, right?
Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier, there were some communication issues between us and Körber communication or customer service, and being able to get under the right group. I think it says support wing here. So Michael and team were able to get us right where we needed to be and communicating with the right group. And that really just got the ball rolling with understanding where are the actual issues and how do we fix it in a quicker way.
And it's interesting, we talked about it. You started with one side of the equation. Körber comes in and buys that side of the business. And then I think you guys are like maybe in a little bit of purgatory. So being able to leverage our relationship, got Jackson, VP of Services on the phone, got the right team, got involved, and it was a three-legged stool to get this thing across the line because we couldn't have done it on our own. We needed Körber Services to support some of the things that were happening. So
yeah, I agree. And part of that is us kind of getting a good core group ourselves within our group. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But the added training, we did end up expanding the WMS system into our 2 Memphis warehouses, and happy to report it will probably be going into our new facility in February. So really growing with it. It's drastically improved space utilization, allowing us to set up racking, flow racking, different ways of pick, pack, and ship. That now that we're scanning and using location accuracy, it allows us to set things a little tighter, a little cleaner, and giving us more use of the space of the facility. The performance, as we mentioned earlier, is outstanding, not just with the reduction of labor or stuff like that, but just our efficiency of getting the right piece in the right package to the right customer on time.
And now style, size, color, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, as you guys, multi-tenant environment, being successful, adding new things, I mean, who would have known that the asset you guys bought for PPE,
Right.
point of sale marketing and automotive, and let's not forget all of the great egg cartons out there,
Yeah,
right?
There you go.
And now you walk through your facility, you got Spirits, you got Angel's Envy, you got Brown-Forman, you got Myers Rum, you got all of these great brands right here in Kentucky. And now you're expanding into apparel. So, I mean, what's next, right? Who knows what we're going to see, right?
Well, yeah, the more automation, that's another part that Körber and Alpine have given us the opportunity to get a little more detailed into the next stage, which we're going to get here a little bit later in the discussion. But lots of improvements, lots of performance improvements due to a great collaboration.
Well, I like that. Obviously, you wouldn't talk about benefits and results if we didn't talk about lessons learned, right? Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Yeah, if you could do it differently, how would you do it? But let's talk about what we really uncovered through this project, right?
I think we said it a couple of times, but really I can't stress it. The importance of understanding where you are, what support group you have, make sure it's clear on where you're going, expectations, and making sure you communicate with the right group. If you don't have the right group and you're in between two different groups, whether it's the launch team or the support team, and each one of them thinks you're going one way or the other, you kind of sit in purgatory and you kind of get into a lull where we got into until we get the right communication, which you guys did provide. This is the part I was kind of alluding to. Our first round at trying to do it on our own, we had a single source driver, and that wasn't the right solution. So when Michael came into the game, we were kind of talking about what kind of support we would be providing to him. So I was so focused on getting that support, I had to take a step back. So we ended up incorporating our inventory teams, our quality teams, our engineering teams, our IT, along with our operations and continuous improvement teams, all in the room to give ample support, ample education spread across to develop that team that makes it ultimately a success.
Well, the bigger part is we wanted you guys to be self-sustaining, right? I mean, we can't be here to be putting Band-Aids on and duct tape, right? We came in, ripped it down, wrote a prescription for success, forced you to bring additional resources to the team, trained them, brought them along. So they were doing the acceptance testing. They were doing the end user training. We built the tools, but we wanted the team to be able to be self-sufficient, especially because we knew multiple sites, right? Mm-hmm. So fixing here, getting this stable, but then bringing your team over from Memphis, having them part of that go live so they could go back and do it in their sites was a big part of it. So you made the right investments with the right team on the second go around versus the first one.
Yeah, and I think it gives us kind of a platform, right, that we can pick up and just drop into each facility now, versus before we were just kind of trying to focus on what we were doing here instead of thinking a little bit.
Agreed.
So that was good. One key functionality though is in customer visibility. So we've been able to link the system, the Körber system, into our data inventory portal, which allows our customers to kind of see their inventory live. When I say live, for those who are thinking, oh my gosh, every second. No, every hour it updates, but that is way faster than what most 3PLs do nowadays, which is usually, they give you at fastest maybe inventory report every morning. Usually it's every week. So now you're saying you're giving access to them to see what we're receiving, what we're shipping, and what their balance is throughout the day.
And that's, best in class, right? You're competing with others to win new business, to get new customers. Now you made an investment in a tool that's allowing you to provide additional value to your customers. So,
and it's been a success.
What about the team?
Well, like we alluded to the team earlier, I don't think, and we've given a lot of kudos to Alpine here and well-deserved. The Körber team did a nice job getting engaged. We get the right people, did a nice teamwork there. And then the HJI team being able to be devoted, taking the time to be engaged was an important thing that we were trying to communicate to them when we were bringing them on board. And I think we kind of engulfed that team concept.
And as much as it wasn't in the room, having Conrad outside helped reaffirm the executive commitment to this project. Yes. And then for you guys to make the investment in the broader team to ensure success. That was a big part of it. So very cool. So what got you here isn't going to get you there. So where are we going now that we've got a stable WMS? We got multiple sites up and running. Where are we going next?
So, most everyone's working towards how can we automate? How can we automate due to labor force restrictions, difficulties? So, how can you automate what you're doing? Typically in this industry, if there's something that you're repeating and you're doing over and over and over and over again, it's probably something you have an opportunity to automate. And it also gives your standard worker an opportunity to be injured or to make a mistake because you're routinely doing the same thing over and over. So you want to take those routine aspects out of their day and give it to some type of automation. So,
and you have the fork truck here in the building, don't you?
Yeah. So we have some automated fork trucks. We have a specific turret truck that we're trying to get to that level as well that works within a 6-foot
very narrow
versus your traditional 15-foot aisle. We were able to condense that and better use the space utilization again through that, but also hopefully automate those pieces of equipment that go in and out of there because it's routine. They're grabbing a pallet, bringing it in, bringing it out, so that the system will come into play by giving those trucks their instructions. So we're going to have to link that with Körber to say, hey, you need to go to this aisle to pick this pallet out of this location.
It's going to get its directive work from the WMS, and it's going to be fully autonomous truck.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah. Obviously, we're going to continue that. Systems improvements, which Alpine's helping us with now. There's Körber, one of the good things about this WMS is it has lots of modules that allows you to grow and add on to your system. Like we referred to earlier, you had the basic receiving shipping module, but then we added the kitting module, right? Looking to add the cartonization a little bit later to kind of help us collect those dimensions, because a lot of when you're dealing with 3PL customers, a good portion of them are new to working with 3PLs, or they're new to their business. So for them to be able to give you those dimensions and stuff is probably difficult for them. So the best way to capture that is with the right machines and tools as they come into your facility, just grab it for them.
Absolutely. So we'll get the Cuba scan set up. We'll start cubing the items, the item master data, put that in the WMS. Anytime it sees that item, we'll capture that so that way we can turn on cartonization. Obviously, the big one here is the third-party billing. How's that working for you right now?
Working really well. And what that is, that's another automated feature that allows our system to connect with, Mike alluded to earlier, the NetSuite ERP system that we have to incorporate grabbing the data necessary to form invoices, automated invoices to get to customers quickly, more efficiently. And again, it does reduce labor.
That's right. That's right. All right. So Shane, thank you so much. Believe it or not, we are here today. We're going to open it up for some Q&A. We had the video crew from Körber here. So we got the video of the facility, the design. We got Elevate, which is coming right around the corner. That's March 13th in Orlando. So you're going to be speaking at that event, bringing your team down there. It's really cool. Greg, what kind of questions do we have coming from the Q&A in the chat?
Sure. So we had pretty good traffic on the Q&A. The first one, thanks, Michael and Shane, by the way. First question from the audience, what were the selection criteria and your decision-making criteria for selecting Körber as your WMS, given you had several candidates out there? And I know, Shane, you mentioned you look at a lot of people out there. What made you land on Körber for your selection?
Great question, Greg. So when we were going through there, we were trying to think of what would that criteria be, and we were basing it off of the current system that we had that was not able to grow where we wanted to grow into. So part of that was having a full WMS system. So that was a big criteria. So a lot of systems out there, you'll see they're really inventory management systems. So they don't have a shipping module with them or a receiving module sometimes. They don't have the ability to expand into a kitting module. They're just a flat, hey, you receive it in here and then we'll manage the inventory, and that's about it, right? So that was one. Two, being able to integrate with our ERP system was a very important piece, because we knew somewhere down the line we want to automate that invoicing, right? We got a lot of busy bees in the office trying to keep up with that. So we thought that would be something that we want to grow into. Of course, I guess you would say time for deployment was important. Customer feedback. So once we selected the one we wanted, we did actually go on a tour to 3 different facilities in South Carolina, Georgia, to kind of go into their facility and let them display what was working for them. They were other 3PLs that were kind enough to let us in and just see, how the system function. Pricing is obviously important as well, right? And then it had the ability to be cloud-based. That was very important too, because the goal of any fulfillment operation is to be able to pick up and put down somewhere else quickly, right? And if you're locked into your own servers and that whole process, that's a significant amount of time to purchase the hardware, program the hardware, link it up with the high jumps groups and all that stuff. Whereas this cloud-based, it sounds rudimentary, but basically you just need internet and then you're off and running. So those are some major pieces. I think we had somewhere around 15 different criteria, some other things on there too, but those were the main ones.
Okay, nice. Thank you. All right, so the next question from the audience. First, I thank both Michael and Shane for the discussion. Question is, and I'll try to make sure this comes out the right way. What was the framework that HJI used to identify the problems? Once done, implementing the solutions, and what were the most crucial data points that you guys used initially to collect and identify what really the true problems were? How did you boil it down to what is the underlying problem that I'm trying to fix?
So I think that was really our problem, right? At the first, because as we were communicating with Körber, we thought this, they thought this, and we couldn't really narrow that down. And that's where Alpine came in with the expertise of, let's do the best practice assessment and say, where are we truly missing out on, right? And to be frank, I think we found quite a few things that we did not think were the root problem. And as we identified those things, then with Alpine's help, we were able to establish a execution process to get where we needed to get to. But it was a very good question, because I think that was the big piece that was missing, is we couldn't identify.
I think it was pretty simple.
What we needed.
Michael, make it stable. Number 2, make sure that the integration with NetSuite works. And then number 3, give me comfort before I promote any new functionality that it will work. I think those were your 3 metrics of success, right?
Yeah. And I think that's a really good tie-in to the next question. You did that, you were burdened with coming up to a solution, but the question is, why did you end up bringing in Alpine, and what were the driving forces of selecting Alpine as your systems integrator?
Well, I think one of our core values here is being authentic and transparent. So I don't mind saying that the main reason that we brought in Alpine is that we did not have the right expertise and the right bandwidth to battle the issue and really understand not only how to identify the issue, but then what are the right steps to fix the issue, because miscommunication and where we were getting bounced around between the different Körber groups, because they had purchased this in the midst of what we were doing. So I think they were establishing their feet as well. And that was probably the reason we brought Alpine in, is because we personally, internally, didn't have the right resources.
Well, the other thing, right? 200% year-over-year growth, labor challenges, COVID,
right.
PPE going out the door, and I'm supposed to move in a month.
Yeah,
I think you had your hands
we were a tad bit busy with a few things, and to be frank, we did lose our number 1 person. Like I said, we had a single source to try to launch this at first instead of a group, and that single source we actually end up losing right before COVID to another opportunity. Good luck with them. But when that happened, a lot of knowledge left, so we had to act quickly.
Regroup.
All right.
Yeah, regroup.
So thank you very much. Makes perfect sense. So the next one has to do with automation. So you mentioned that you were looking at and deploying turret trucks, some autonomous, not quite there yet. With as many automation options as there are out there, what made you guys settle in on turrets as opposed to a different solution?
Well, that's a great question. And again, to be honest, if I'm the smartest person in the room, we're in the wrong room. So I try to surround myself with people like Alpine that have expertise. So we have a automation team that we work with that helps us to identify solutions that best fits our business. Our engineering team works with them, and then once we establish that, we work with Alpine on how to integrate those things. But we have a partner that helps us to identify those things, and that's gives us the opportunity to go into other companies and see how it functions and see if that is truly a fit for us.
Maybe I can answer it a different way, right? So based on a majority of your business being the spirits industry, full pallets in, full pallets out, right? An autonomous vehicle where it's doing the puts and hooks, and a very no miles the right answer. Now that your business is diversifying, right, there's probably some possible opportunities out there for vertical lift module or some sort of AMR or goods to person, but it's always going to be based on the customer, the order profile, and what's the best way. You said, well, if I'm doing full pallets in and out, full out, how can I, automate that? If all of a sudden now you're doing this huge order profile where it's onesies, let me go put all of my apparel and bring it to a pack out station and avoid all of that travel. So I think you're going to find the right automation based on your experience and those types of things for the right client and order profile and situation, right?
Yeah, no, that's well said. And that's so true, especially in 3PL. All the customers we have now, we can get a totally different customer tomorrow.
That's what I said. I said, what's next for you?
And that's okay. And then that's one of our claims to fame is that they know that we're going to do it the right way, and we'll adapt and we'll do what's necessary, and we work collaboratively with our customer like they're a member of our family, and we treat them the right way, and they're willing to invest in us, and we invest in them.
Nice.
Okay.
Any other questions, Greg?
Yep. This one last one. The viewer gave a chuckle and said he was going to steal your quote about smartest person in the room change rooms. But his question was, knowing what you know today, because I'm right in the middle of where you started, what would you change with regards to the implementation once you've selected your vendor?
I think it would come down to what is the stability of the vendor, or, if I knew they were getting purchased, I knew that would have been a different scenario, but what's the stability of that? What kind of resources are they putting towards it? And then does that match the education and bandwidth of the team that you have? Do you have all the right resources to support that? And if you don't, and you don't have it in-house, then you need an Alpine.
Great. Well, that was the last question that I had in the QA.
I know there's another question.
Uh-oh.
We're not brothers. We do look alike, but we're not brothers.
Okay. With no more questions, would really like to thank Shane Allgaier and Michael Woolwin for their participation today in our series of webinars, What's Next? As you can see, we're following a theme, Disruption Decade, How to Leverage Supply Chain Execution Solutions to Navigate Ongoing Uncertainty. That will be February of 2023, and we're doing it in concert with Supply Chain Brain, Made for Net, and 3 GTMS. So look for our invite. It will be coming similar to the last one that you gave. Again, a big thanks and shout out to everybody on the call today. If anybody on this webinar has further questions for either Shane or Michael, you can see that their contact information is in this slide. And with that, we'd like to thank all the people who joined us and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Greg, for being a great moderator, buddy.
You're welcome.
All right.